Go ahead and, well, it's 6:29, but close enough. We're going to start the city council meeting. We have a. She's on her way. Okay. So no need to excuse her. Okay. Joel, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for today. Thank you for gathering us today to make decisions on our next year's budget. We continue to pray for the people in Kerrville, our first responders, and our military personnel. And just watch over our friends and families and keep them safe. And these things we pray. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Peggy, nobody signed up for citizens to be heard? I don't see anyone here. Okay. All right. We'll skip that. Move on to item 6, discussion action. A, discussion on the tax rate. Are you going to take it, Mr. Reed or Miranda?
We are going to have a tag team tonight, sir.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Let me open this up. And each of you have a hard copy of this presentation. And also, at the end or during the presentation, Anna Miranda will give you a handout where we show you different options on the tax rate. We'll also give you an update on where the city of Schertz is in the consideration of their tax rate, just as an FYI, not as a rule that you have to follow, but just to give you an idea of the direction that a neighboring city is going. So these are the items that Ms. Anna Miranda and I will cover tonight. And the feedback is as listed here. Does City Council support the voter approval tax rate for FY26? Again, we're going to give you a handout that shows you different options between the no new revenue rate up to the voter approval rate. Does City Council agree with staff's identification of one-time costs coming from fund balance? And does City Council support reducing fund balance to 26.6 given one-time cost? And that's in line with your direction on the fund reserve policy. As we've done following all of our budget workshops this year as well as last year, here's the status of what your actions were. So from the dais, you made a request. And the first one was create a preferred vendor spot on the vendor map and charge an increased fee for those spots. So this is something that staff is working on. Staff has a Cibolo Fest staff meeting, and on the next agenda, we're going to work through that, and we will bring that to you so that you can see how we've worked through that suggestion. City Council action, the second one is doing a discount promotion for wristbands. We are also going to cover that at the next Cibolo Fest staff meeting. The third one is produce a list of projects that would possibly be eligible for federal funding. All of you have seen the email from Brian Huggins that was sent to you on Monday, July 28th. The next one, the research of other cities to determine if they provide any assistance or discount for businesses like Mr. Woods. An email was sent also the same day by Brian Huggins on that. And last and not least, come back at an August council meeting to give an update on the NTMP and any associated costs for implementation. And we anticipate that at the second meeting in August. I'll just ask Mr. Huggins, is that still good? All right. So we are following up on those requests from the dais.
Mr. Reed, back on that.
Yes, sir.
Second to the last.
Yes.
I had a resident that had reached out to me about the drainage fee, wondering why. I know that they had asked Mr. Otto to get me something, how they configure it, so I can explain to her, because she's complaining that her property, she pays more in drainage fees than her neighbor. And I know it has to do with the coverage of the property.
Yes, sir.
So I'm still waiting on that from Mr. Otto, so I can give it to her, because it's Miss Schneider out there in Crystal
Off of
Park.
Hickerville Road?
Yes.
Great. I will follow up Brian's going to follow up with Chris, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. We'll make sure that we get that to the entire city council. Thank you, sir. And now Anna Miranda will take it from here to talk about the tax rate calculation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's that time of year again where I spend way too much time at the podium. The budget property tax process starts with Guadalupe County Appraisal District, responsible for property appraisal of all properties in the county. Preliminary values were sent in April, and certified values were certified last Friday to us, July 25th. We work with the tax assessor collector's office to calculate the required property tax rates for truth in taxation. The Texas Truth in Taxation process is dictated by Property Tax Code and Texas Local Government Code, and the laws are established to make the property tax setting process more transparent. The rates should be published on our website by August 7th. When we received the preliminary values in April, the range of value was estimated to be between 3.65 billion to 3.76 billion. The 25 certified value is 3.69 billion, which is just less than halfway between the range given. It's 2.6% less than the 24 certified value of 3.79 billion. A decline in values generally results in a tax rate increase to generate the same amount of tax revenue as the prior year on the same properties. The next couple of slides will provide more details on the values by property classification. And I do want to note that the average taxable homestead value decreased by 3.8% from 350.6 thousand last year to 337.5 this year.
Ms. Miranda, do you think that's because more people are applying for?
These are the post-COVID years when interest rates were extremely low and market values of homes went pretty high. The years following COVID had steeper growth with the market increases, combined with, of course, our commercial industrial growth, which we've seen a lot of as well. With the higher inflation and interest rates, Mr. Snadden over at the appraisal district has indicated that that's led to a decrease in the market values as the higher interest rates that we're experiencing currently. This chart separates the taxable assessed values by classification. So we have residential, multifamily, commercial, industrial, and a category called other, which includes open space land, rural land, and vacant lots. It does show, you can see the growth in residential, the steady growth, making up 88% at the beginning in 2019 and making up 76.3% of our total value this year. And that's a result of not only the growth in the commercial industrial, but also the drop in values in residential. You can see the dark blue section of the bar grows consistently until 2025 when it declines. I know everybody's happy to see the growth in both the industrial and the commercial sectors, and even the multifamily has gone from 0.2% in 2019 to 2.3% in 2025. So it's quite an increase. Multifamily properties. So going back to your question, Mr. Hicks, the taxable value of residential properties decreased by 7.4% as a result of their market values declining by 5% and exemptions increasing by 7.3%. In the past, when we've talked about the exemptions, we had double-digit increases in most years for those exemptions, and it was a smaller increase this year, likely also impacted because the market values were also declining. We saw the taxable value of multifamily, commercial, and industrial properties all increase in line with the market values. A result of these lower values, again, impacts the no new revenue tax rate and the voter approval tax rate. As you know, the no new revenue tax rate is a tax rate which would produce the same amount of revenue if applied to the same properties in both years. And the voter approval tax rate is the maximum allowed by law without voter approval, without an election. So the proposed budget has been based on the voter approval tax rate of 52.26 cents and will require a public hearing prior to adoption. For reference, a 1 cent on the tax rate is $350,000. And that's a change from what was in your packet and is indicated in the red font. As I mentioned earlier, the average homestead value decreased by 3.8% from $350,621 to $337,425. You may have noticed that on your own appraisals when they came in. The impact on last year on the 49.9 cent rate on the average home value last year would have seen taxes for the city of about $1,750. This year, with the reduced homestead value combined with the NNR rate, you would actually see a decrease in property tax that a homeowner pays to just under $1,690 or $60 savings. Going to the voter approval rate at 52.26 cents, the impact to a homeowner would be approximately $14 from the prior year, $14 more. It's about a $75 difference between the NNR rate and the voter approval rate. The tax rate is also made of two components, the M&O rate, which is deposited into the general fund and is used for general operations, public safety, public works, and administration. And at the voter approval rate is proposed to be 33.8 cents. The debt service rate is pretty fixed. It's used to pay principal and interest on tax-supported capital projects, all the debt that the city has issued, and it's calculated at 18.45 cents. Looking at it in totals and not by the average home value, the general fund, based on an M&O tax rate of 33.8 cents, would generate a levy of just over $12 million. We also have a freeze levy, so all of the home values that are frozen based on a taxpayer's age or disability, they would have a frozen tax rate or frozen taxes on their property. We would account for that as well, add it to our calculated levy, and so the general fund would see a levy of $12.5 million. We have budgeted 12.4, and that's to account for the collection rate. We don't collect 100% of our taxes. In the past few years, it's been closer to 98.6, 98.7%. The debt service fund, again, going through with the net taxable value times the tax rate, calculated levy, adding the freeze levy as well, and comparing to our budget is 98.7%, and that's the values needed to bring in the amounts needed to pay the debt of the city. Are there any questions on any of these slides or any of this information?
Can you just run the calculations with the amount that the citizens are claiming that their homes are worth, assuming worst case scenario that that's all we get, that the appraisal district were to work with them and say, okay, we will go with your number, then that would get us really close to what we had last year, right?
So you're asking for the no new revenue tax rate?
No, I didn't say anything like that. I'm just asking about the calculations on the previous slides.
Well, that's what I'm saying. For us to get what, if we were to get what we've got coming in right now, it'd be the no new tax revenue rate, which would be 50 cents.
And to further explain the no new revenue rate, it's based on the total rate. There's also a rate that is in the tax rate calculation, and it is the M&O NNR. And because our debt service rate is increasing, our M&O NNR is slightly different than what it would be if you calculate the total rate NNR. And I do have a handout for you, so you can see this.
When are those protests going to be over? I thought their deadline to file the protest was in May, wasn't it?
It is, but there are still about 500 properties that are under protest and are still being evaluated.
Okay.
What was explained to me
Thank you.
by Peter Snadden is that the majority of those still under protest are related to investment property. So, or an investor that owns multiple residential properties has protested their values.
You keep one and I'll pass one.
Well, whoever they are, there's a deadline. I think
And
that,
so those would not be homestead properties. So I didn't ask for the exact number, but I would imagine that most of the homestead properties that impact that average homestead rate or value have already been finalized.
okay.
When you're done.
Councilman Mahoney?
Wasn't sure if you were finished with your, on that point about the investor properties, or whatever you call them, that would include people, for example, I'm in an HOA where owners can, are listed in a board member portal that I can see, and some of them they don't have names, like, John Doe, but they'll have a company name, probably rental houses, I think.
Right.
And so sometimes a trust, so those are the kinds of things that you're referring to, I think.
It may be if they're rental properties owned by an investor.
The ones that are probably still being under protest, what you're talking about, Mr. Mahoney, is like a corporation who may own 7 or 10 rentals throughout Guadalupe County, per se, and they're trying to get the values down on every one of them, and they have a tax company that does that for them. So that's probably the ones that are
Right.
still under
And,
protest.
Well,
and they will all be heard together.
Yes.
Is my understanding.
Yes.
It's not relevant really to the HOA at the time at all. It's just incidental how I happen to know about that, and so I wanted to just be clear when you mentioned it. It's not really HOA business if they're appealing or protesting or anything.
Yes, so on this slide, if we were to combine the 3690 and change with the 164, that's really what we can bank on.
And that is what the tax rate calculation does. So the tax assessor puts all the numbers in there, including the estimate of taxpayers' opinion of value. So
Is
the
that what you're basing
164 is included in there, and this is where,
and that's what you're basing your 50 cents on?
do you see on the second line, the 164,000 is included in the value. And then the freeze values are removed, which are $302 million. The net taxable value is 3.5 billion, which is used to calculate the levy, and then we add the frozen levy back.
I see what you're saying.
What Mayor's saying is, this isn't the 152, he's asking about 50 cent, if you were to give us the numbers for just no new.
Right. So they are on the handout that was passed out. The 25 VAR rate of 52 cents is in the middle in blue, and then there are 4 rates underneath that, including the NNR 50 cents. As I mentioned earlier, it would
Is that this one?
this one.
Okay.
That one that you just stated.
Yeah. Okay. This is the 50.005.
So at the 50 cents, a taxpayer would pay about $1,690 on a property that very likely declined in value. And so they would see a savings even with a higher tax rate of 50 cents. And at the VAR at 52.26 cents, although it would be an increase, it's a little over $1 a month increase. It's $13.78 a year increase at the VAR. You can see the other values, the NNR, the 1 cent over NNR, the 2025 M&O NNR, all produce a decrease in taxes for the average homeowner, homestead homeowner. And the 2 cents over NNR would cost approximately $6.70 more a year for the average homestead. So there are some options to consider. You can consider any of the rates between, between the current rate or you can consider any rate below 52.26 cents, basically. But it will have an impact on general fund revenue. So the last column is the impact to the general fund revenue. Where we have budgeted at the VAR rate, there's no impact. And going down to the NNR, for example, would be about a $789,000 impact to the general fund.
My question is, well, no tax rate increase. You don't have a number. I mean, how is that gonna?
Yeah, so how much different from 788, 967 would be, like, I know in that top column, like what Councilman Hicks is saying, why don't we have a number up here? If we were to leave it at 4990.
I mean, I know it's gonna be a deficit, it'll be a negative, but what would that be?
It's an additional
Probably
15
800,000.
hundredths of a penny.
Okay.
Negative.
Well, look out, the accountant is doing her calculator thing.
I got it.
And Mayor and Council, as Ana Miranda is calculating that for you, what we want to make sure now is that you're understanding that calculation sheet that you're all looking at, but we'd like to get through the rest of the presentation before you really dive in on the debate of what the tax rate is that you're comfortable with, so that you have the full presentation before that discussion.
So to answer your question, it's about 841,000. So it's an additional 50,000 on top of the 788 number. 840,000. And I will hand it over to Mr. Reed for the next few slides.
Thank you, Ms. Miranda. So Mayor and Council, if you have a pen, I was talking with Mr. Williams today. When I say talking, I was texting. I said, so what are you proposing to your city council? He said there's no new revenue rate. So their current tax rate is 49 cents flat, so 49.00. We're at 49.90, of course. His no new revenue rate, as calculated on their T&T form, is 50.56 cents. 50.56. He's recommending that no new revenue rate to balance his proposed budget for FY26. Considering that we're already 0.9 cent above them, if you were to consider that delta already, a 51.46 cent tax rate would look similar if you want to compare their 49 cent flat rate to our 49.90. I only offer this to you as information, nothing else. Yep. All right. Let me just move on to a few more slides, and then Ms. Miranda will come up. We'll come up to finish the presentation. This is the 5th budget cycle that I've worked with the city council on, with the executive team on. And each year, up until last year, the council saw the wisdom in going to a voter approval rate in order to balance the demands on the general fund and the increased mandatory costs that we were having, and the investments, I'd like to remind, that this council is making through its largest policy tool. Your largest policy tool is the budget. So I'd like to highlight some of the investments that you're making in this year's budget and what you have been doing. So technology and fleet investments. You've had the wisdom to recognize that we are a municipality working with a very lean staff. So how do we assist our people if we can't add more people, or we're adding limited additional staff. You've invested in the technology and fleet to make them more efficient. And so that's what the first one is saying is you've approved budgets for technology so that our staff is doing more with the same amount of people. And that's a benefit to our customers. And in addition to the technology, you've approved a 5-year fleet replacement plan that in FY23 you first did. In this budget cycle, you had new presentations from Public Works and Police and Fire saying it's making a positive, proactive difference. You have become proactive and intentional in providing the fleet for our first responders in your neighborhood. You're intimately familiar with the residents there, really enjoyed that. You made that investment by adopting a tax rate that allowed us to buy that equipment. And so we weren't doing that 4 years ago, but we're doing it now because of the investments that you've made and that we hope that we will continue to make with our fleet. On capital improvement program, we've made great strides in our CIP. We've made commitments every year to a list of projects, and we've delivered on those projects. When I arrived, you had Cibolo Valley Drive and 9 other roads that the city had not even started on. You started on Cibolo, and you used to use a figure of speech, lick your thumb. And when I say you, it's the greater you. It's the city of Cibolo. We used to lick our thumb, hold it up in the wind and say, we think that's $7.5 million for Cibolo Valley Drive and 9 other roads. And we don't do that anymore, do we? We use qualified engineers to design the roads, give us OPCC's, opinion of probable construction cost. And then we do competitive bidding to ensure that we're getting the best pricing for the quality road that we're designing to. Just like the FY25 street package number 2, we added ribbon curbs on the streets that had rural road cross sections. We're completing those projects. This year, in this calendar year, you will complete all other 9 roads that when I started in 21 were but a dream because there were no designs. This council made the investment to make sure that we could get there. On financial management, because of our shared leadership of working with each other from policies to CIP to cybersecurity to financial policies, purchasing and procurement, our credit rating was upgraded to AA+, equal to other communities that are larger and more prosperous than us. And we have done that in our shared leadership with the City Council. And that saves us hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, of interest payments across the life of the debt. When we go to issue the debt for the construction of the new animal services facility, that saves us money. When we issue the debt for the public safety facility, Fire Station 4 with the police substation, that's saving our Cibolo taxpayers money over the interest payments, over the life of the debt. As I started this off about your investments, about our lean staff model and investing in fleet and technology, you've also provided annually money to invest in our people. We have ensured that a professional who works for us today has the opportunity to be trained in a skill or gain knowledge so that next year, maybe they're worth 110% because they're that much better. They're another credential, another certification, or they're maintaining their certification. And so that investment in the professional development not only enhances skills and abilities, it demonstrates to the staff that the city cares about their future, which aids in employee retention. And there are several benchmarks we can measure, but one is this. You made an investment to move police and fire to market competitive pay, to do our best to keep other employees at market competitive pay. We went to our voters this past election cycle, and they overwhelmingly approved that public safety tax increase. So I thought it was worth showing you that for uniformed police and for fire, it's made a difference. It's kept our police steady on turnover and look at the dramatic improvement in fire. In the presentations to you, we showed that we are losing firefighters to other agencies, and I'm going to look at Chief Troncoso right now just to make sure the statement is still true. We have yet to, in 2025, lose a firefighter to another agency as of today. Right? You made that investment by just asking the voters, do you support that? And overall, you can see that our turnover rate through June of this year is just above 10%, around 11%. And so we are improving in that area too. I'm going to turn it back over to Anna before we get back to the three questions we have for council and your most important policy decision. What is the tax rate that you are most comfortable with to manage this corporation that is managing mandated cost increase and increased costs to do business? Thank you.
Thank you. So we are providing an update on the general fund tonight. We have made further adjustments to both revenue and expenses to get us closer to a balanced budget. Currently, expenses exceed revenues by $462,000 and reduces fund balance by that same amount. We have identified one-time costs being funded from fund balance. They include the cash match for the recently awarded 2026 MVCPA grant, litigation costs that should be non-recurring from year to year, grants to nonprofit organizations in the city council budget, computer replacements in the general fund, special events, and our contribution to the Schertz Library. Those are items that can be decided on year by city council and can be delayed if necessary. Considering these one-time costs, recurring revenues are roughly equal to recurring expenses. The general fund revenue budget assumes tax revenue at the voter approval rate. Additions to revenue in this budget workshop since the budget workshop 2 include an increase in park rentals based on proposed fee schedule changes and an increased transfer from the drainage fund to get 4% franchise fees similar to what we're doing in the water wastewater utility fund. You can see the progression in revenues from 24.2 million to 24.5 million and still slightly over 24.5 million. Just want to reiterate that property taxes is our single largest source of revenue in the general fund. And although sales tax has continued to increase, we are dependent on the property tax revenue for the general fund to support the general operations of the city. The most significant adjustments to expense since the last budget workshop include the addition of the grant match of $97,000, so that increased expenses by one-time costs, and a reduction of the COLA from 3% to 2%, saving approximately $80,000. The result is a reduction in recurring expense, putting us at actually a 26.8% fund balance reserve. I did make that change indicated in red. Again, the largest cost in our general fund is people at $17.1 million. Wanted to point that out. Services and utilities at 13.6 is the next highest category. The debt service fund has not been presented to council in either of the budget workshops, so this is the first time that you are seeing it this year. Total debt service principal and interest is approximately $8 million. And it is broken down by issuance. And it will also be shown by issuance when it is published in the newspaper. Funding for the $8 million in debt service comes primarily from property taxes, with some additional funding from the YMCA on the 2017 certificates of obligation, and transfers from EDC and street maintenance sales tax revenue of $976,000 for next year. So $8 million in total revenues to cover $8 million in total expenses, leaving 1.4 million in fund balance, which is approximately 17.5% of annual payments. Are there any questions on the debt service fund or?
I do have a question. I'm sorry. I know that we had said that we were going to raise the salaries of upper people that didn't get adjusted previously. If those were not adjusted, would that assist in getting you closer to your revenue that you need to meet?
The cost in the general fund currently for market adjustments and for a 2% cost of living adjustment is $271,000 currently. So a little less than a penny on
And
the tax rate.
that's including the executives.
Yes.
And that is of reflecting for a 9-month period within the fiscal year. So like you did last year, we estimated that if the voters approved the public safety tax increase, it would become effective January 1. And in past market adjustments, we've made them effective January 1. So that 271 is for a 9-month period for merit and COLA.
That's right.
Market and COLA. So the amount for
Those options.
the upper staff is not a large amount relative to the total budget. It would not make a noticeable difference.
But it would make a difference.
Yes, ma'am.
It would make a difference if you put it in perspective of what some of your other employees in the city make. It would make a huge difference, but that's all I'm gonna say.
I'm not sure I understood. Did you mean
It's okay.
the market adjustment for all the other staff besides public safety and public works?
I can't talk about the COLA because it affects my household, so I can't discuss that.
Okay.
I was just asking about those positions that we did.
Adjust last year.
To adjust perhaps if they were not or able to go to market.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are seeking your feedback and direction on the tax rate. That is, the handout that you have has some options. And of course, I have my computer. I can plug in a number that, anywhere in between those numbers and give you an amount. I do want to remind council that at 52.26 cents, the average homestead will pay only $14 more a year because of the decline in values.
What do you think, Joel? The question is, does council support the voter-approved tax rate? Donetta?
I'm fine with it.
You're okay with it?
I mean, $14 is really nothing. $14 is nothing compared to what the school district's getting ready to raise, probably. I'm just saying. So I'm okay with going to 0.52% or cents.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez-Stevens?
I'm not in favor of the 5226. I do realize that the property values going down is a huge factor. Something that Ms. Roberts said actually did, in combination with the presentation, Mr. Reed, if we need more personnel, we did receive all these fleet. If it were possible for, let's say, this particular year to forego the COLA, let's say, for our executive team, and it gives us a small amount of money, relative to what Mr. Reed mentioned, it could potentially give us additional staff to hire with that. Additional personnel, I'm just saying, maybe we could see about, maybe it's not just the executive team, maybe a certain amount over 100,000 or so. I don't know. I'm not going to pick numbers arbitrarily. I'm just thinking, how can we continue to still function, right? And, because sometimes you can do these things in phases. It doesn't have to be all lump sum. These are just, thoughts that I'm just kind of getting out there based on these presentations and so forth. 5226, also understanding that our water rates are going to go up. We're going to incur, increased rates also for, the wastewater for our wastewater expansion plant. All these things just taken into mind, all comprised, and just also reading that the exemptions have gone up by over 7%, and property values going down 5%. At what point, even like the 5226, I'm curious, how long will that carry? How long will that carry if more, let's say, more people move in and have exemptions? How long will this carry, in other words?
Right, and the tax rate is set for just 1 year's period, and then all the property values will be reappraised next year, and we'll go through this process again. And it does, the appraisals do impact that tax rate calculation, so.
If I could add, I want to reiterate with what Ms. Miranda said earlier. There's an inverse relationship between your tax rate and the revenue coming in. So this year, when the appraised values decreased to get to a no new revenue rate, the tax rate increased. But on the slide that Ms. Miranda had that showed year over year property value increases, where we were at double digit, just to generalize, our tax rate then decreased year over year. So we can't predict, does market go up or market go down for home values? So let's say you had 2 years in a row of decreased home values. I've been doing this for 27 years, and only the Great Recession did we see home values, property values, all values, decrease in 2 consecutive years. But that doesn't mean it can't happen again. So if values dropped another year, you would see something similar to this, where just to produce the same revenue, to get to no new revenue, the tax rate would look higher than the current 49.90. But if we return to an increasing value, market value, appraised value of homes, Ms. Sanchez-Stevens, next year you would see us come back with a no new revenue rate that would be lower than whatever the rate is that you set for this coming year. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think it also
And
should be said that there's a lot of people whose property values did not go down. It actually did increase. So this could actually be an impact for them.
I did do a sampling of some of the neighborhoods in town, and so I can share that information with you at the next meeting of which neighborhoods kind of went up and which ones went down.
Councilwoman Cunningham.
I don't think you're going to hear anyone cheering on increasing taxes. That's just not going to happen. Most of us up here pay taxes. We have a lot of work to do in this city. We all know that Cibolo grew very fast. There was not a lot of proactive planning done as it grew. We are still in catch-up mode. We are having to be reactive to a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff outside of our control, as Norma mentioned. We can't control property values. We don't control the water rates. We don't control settlements. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we don't have any control over. The state has already increased the homestead exemption, which could potentially impact our revenue. The state has discussed getting rid of property taxes entirely, which will drastically impact us and our revenue. We can't stop and not do anything. Again, not a huge fan of raising taxes, but I would be okay with the voter approval rate because of the minimal impact in actual dollars to residents, and the fact that it's the only one that takes us out of the negative with revenue. However, I do want to add, there's a lot of stuff in our budget that we need to cut. And I love that council's all gung-ho and ready to say, we just need to cut things, we just need to cut things. The first thing that people always want to cut is salaries. Salaries aren't, when we're looking at salaries in a budget, it's not just what they take home. It's including the fringe, it's including insurance, it's including workers' comp, it's including all of those other pieces that go into the entire benefits package for each person. So yes, we could we could take away COLA. That's not gonna impact much. It'll be a drop in the bucket. What we can look at, which I proposed last year and it got overlooked, was cutting our own council budget. We had $8,000 for swag. We had another $8,000 to $10,000 in events, golfing and things like that. We had $15,000 in training. We had a whole bunch of, several $1,000s in branded merch for our shirts and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we don't need. And I know that's just the council budget, but I know other department budgets also have branded merch and goodies and things like that that we don't need. So while I support the voter approval tax rate, that cannot be done alone. We have to work in conjunction with actually looking at the budget and cutting out and cutting down as much as we possibly can, because, again, as Norma said, we don't know what's gonna happen next year. And if next year they double the homestead exemption, that would decimate us. And we're not talking about going to a voter approval tax rate to break even. We're talking about taking it to the voters to approve a tax rate that's even higher than that to counter the homestead exemption. Or if they get rid of property taxes altogether, then we're really, yeah, we're done. We don't have anything to do. So I think that this is beyond just talking about the tax rate. If we are telling the public, yes, we are raising your property taxes, even though it's minimal impact, it'll only be $14, $17, whatever it was. We still have to show that we're doing the work to cut down as much as we possibly can from every other frivolous expense or potentially frivolous expense that we have. So it's not fun, but just in summary, I approve of the voter approval tax rate and cutting other stuff from the budget.
Thank you, Katie. I am also not in favor of the 52.26 cents. And so I feel that we have to figure out ways to make some cuts somewhere. I don't want it to be from existing employees. I do think that the 3% COLA actually is a great idea. If there's any opportunity for us to look at maybe a hiring freeze for a little while, something like that, maybe not adding any new positions for temporarily until things improve on a macroeconomic basis. I think that might be something to think about. I did also notice that in that pie chart earlier, I think 7% of our expenses go to training. So maybe we can just shave that down to 5%, something like that, maybe to figure out a way to balance things. That one, yeah, there you go. 7.2, no, I'm sorry, it was, okay.
The colors are hard to see.
No, it's
Okay.
actually 0.8%.
Yeah, okay, I see that now. For some reason, I saw that green earlier, and I was thinking 7% was training. That's actually okay, never mind. That's insignificant. Okay. Yeah, the greens threw me off there. So, okay, yeah, that's not really an opportunity for cuts. The intergovernment and other contractual costs, I don't think there's much opportunity for us to cut out of that slice of the
No, and a lot of that
pizza.
was the large increase we saw from City of Church for the EMS and the dispatch services.
Maybe general supplies and repairs, I don't know. I mean, not a good idea to put off repairs, obviously, but maybe skimp on supplies for a little bit. I don't know. But that's my 2 cents. Councilman Mahoney.
And I think it was answering Ms. Sanchez-Stevens about property values. You mentioned that you have a random sampling sort of thing about property values. Does it include any sort of like a bell curve that would show the values of?
I'd have to do a lot more work to get there. We just kind of looked at some, like, for example, I looked at my old home in Turning Stone, and it was about a 3% decrease to the home I used to live in Turning Stone. Just some different neighborhoods, and we can look at more properties to see if we can get more information to be able to create. I could work with the appraisal district to see if they could get its information by neighborhood.
Well, I think where my mind is going is figuring out if I have placed myself on some kind of a bell curve or something, because I know it's not a straight line, it's not up and down, it's going to be some sort of curve, and I'm wondering if, let's say that I'm in the middle as far as my own property value.
Mm-hmm.
So I face a $14 a year increase, is that what I'm hearing?
If your property value decreased by the average, which is 3.8%, it would be approximately a $14 increase.
Okay, so, anyway, that's just something that I'm kind of curious about. If we were to tell our constituents that we might do this, and you might have a $14 a year increase, are we telling 99% of the city that, or just 50% or something? That's why I'm trying to figure out some sort of a range here. Yeah, but after that 50, the mean and the median, you know, being a little different, it might mean that above that, and the ones that have increased, like she referred to, maybe that's a place where that graph really drops off, and it doesn't affect that many people statistically. So that's kind of the way I'm trying to look at this.
Which number?
It may be newer homes that were just constructed, maybe at higher values than homes that are a little older or had a few more years of people living in it to
Yeah.
purchase the value.
Usually if, like the newer neighborhoods, they prorate for, like if your house is built in July, then your property tax for that year is lower than the next year when you get assessed for a home being there the full year,
Well,
if it's a lot.
I think what I'm trying to get at is, you know, how many are affected and how many dollars there are. And I'm also, as a few others have said, encouraging the staff to look for ways to spend less money. Now, somebody mentioned training, and I'm a big advocate of training. I don't want.
That's when I thought it was 7%.
Okay.
With the 0.08, I mean, that's whatever.
Yeah,
That's budget dust.
I'm a big advocate of training, but I'm also a big advocate of encouraging the staff to make things last a little longer. We probably could have gone a couple more years without these new fancy monitors. We could have used the other chairs we used to sit in, you know, a couple more years. These are trivial things, but they add up. And I want everybody on the staff to look for being frugal as much as possible. Now, that being said, I'm not particularly alarmed about the number of the 5220. I think I'm okay with that based on what I was saying about the graph and the number of people. It's so trivial, and there might be a symbolic need some people have to object to that, oh my gosh, we've lost our minds, we're spending too much money. But it's really trivial if you want to live in a sophisticated city with sophisticated services these days. Sometimes you got to bite that bullet. I don't like my taxes going up, but it's tiny. So I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Mahoney. Randy?
Big decision, obviously. I lean towards Mr. Mahoney. For us to stay in a progressive city in a progressive mode, unfortunately, the 0.52 it's necessary to move forward and not have a negative balance. And I know there's, of course, one of the biggest heartburns for everybody is the money we spend for ambulance service. It's a lot of money, but I was telling the chief, just to outfit one rig with men for 1 year is what, $1.4 million. And that's, and basically, that's the whole budget. And how many do we have serving us now? 7. So it's, for us to progress as we are and to expand, I mean, obviously we're going towards I-10. I mean, we're growing, we're building, and it's, unfortunately, we're gonna have to keep pace with that.
So
Mayor,
you've heard from us. Do you need a motion for the rate tonight, or?
No, this is a workshop, but what I did count is that there are 4 that, while no one's in favor of increasing the tax rate, they would support the VAR for the FY26 budget.
That's right.
I've also heard this.
I just have one quick question.
Where else can we find further cost reductions? To be clear, to get to where we are, we have been cutting. So I'm taking your direction yet again. Go back and find more ways to reduce expenses. And so Anna and I will work with the entire executive team, and we're going to find more areas to cut. It won't be huge, but maybe we can find another 100,000 to cut from the budget, because we've already cut it to a point in a budget that started lean. If you'll remember, for FY25, we reduced training dollars. The training dollars this year, we did not increase the amount of training that we're giving to staff. We tried to maintain that level of training. So we will do our very best to find ways to further cut cost in this budget.
Okay. Councilwoman Roberts, you had a question?
I just have a quick question in regards to this one that you gave us. On this 4th column, just so I'm understanding, what you're showing in parentheses, is that what we would still be in a deficit of, based on the rates?
The additional deficit.
Yeah,
So-
okay. No, I just wanted to make sure I
Yes.
understood exactly what, okay, thank you.
And,
Okay, so-
and to clarify, we will look at both opportunities for a little more revenue, because we've already, Anna's done a great job of analyzing that. If there's any additional revenue, along with the reducing of expenses, we will go to task on that right now. So you've answered the first question. The second question is, we just want to make sure that you're supportive of staff's identification of one-time costs coming from the fund balance. So your fund balance is one-time money, and so we identified these in this presentation as one-time expenditures. As Ms. Miranda put it, you don't have to spend those dollars. So I talked to Ms. Miranda about litigation. There's several litigations that we are resolving as we speak, and so on the horizon, I know it's a 4-letter word that you don't like, but the tollway and toll being 4 letters, that's a litigation that's still out there. But we've really put to bed other litigation. So in FY26, I said, I don't think we're going to spend $100,000, but it's in the budget. The MVCPA grant, it's a grant that is for 1 year, and we're saying that that local match would be a one-time cost. Computer replacements, you all were just talking about being more frugal. Can we use computers for another year? Absolutely. So you don't have to replace computers on the schedule. We can stretch them out a little bit longer. So I won't go over the other ones, but those are things that we came up with to say these are one-time costs. If you agree with that, that helps make expenditures, recurring expenditures, more in line with recurring revenue. Do you agree with what we presented tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. So down here on the bottom, it says, does council support reducing the fund balance to 26? I thought we'd already agreed to go into 25%.
City Council did agree to change the fund balance reserve policy down to 25% with identification of one-time costs. So going from 28% to 25%, we only want to spend that on one-time costs. So we've identified one-time costs that will get us to 26.6. There are no other one-time costs in the budget.
How did we, because I know that we were at 23.5% when you first started coming, and you said we're at 23.5, and we should be at 28. How did we get that 4.5% deficit back to where now we're looking at?
We identified some additional one-time costs. So we traded reduced COLA, which is a recurring item.
Okay.
So we don't have to cover that on a recurring basis. And we did add cost, but we added one-time costs like the MVCPA match. That'll be for 1 year only. So switching out some of those costs, identifying them as one-time, it changed the calculation. And so we were and then adding some additional revenue. We added
Yes.
300,000 of additional revenue, and then
So
reduce some
we'd still
costs.
have 1.6% that we could add in. How much would that be? I understand it's one time, but I mean, I know we had this discussion last year with Mr. Benson, and I'm telling you, here we are, we've got 1.6%.
So what you're saying is potentially reduce the tax rate, reducing revenue enough to get us to the 25% fund balance. Yes. So what happens, I mean, that's at council's discretion, but it's not available next year, so we'll be in the
Yeah.
same situation next year.
And then next year, it could be that we're in this exact same position, but now the no new revenue rate, or the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate
Will be
will be
less.
much lower.
Right.
And it may not cover, we may not have a break-even rate at the no new, or the voter approval rate. It may not be break-even. At the
Right,
voter
and
approval rate, we could still be in the red.
I want
200
to
grand.
remind, some of you have been on council for a while and recognize that the state did change the calculation of the rollback rate. It used to be called the rollback rate, and they gave us 8% to work with. So they allowed us 8% over the effective rate, or the NNR. Above on the maintenance and operations side, they allowed us an 8% increase before a rollback election could be called by the voters. They changed that in 2020-ish, I believe, to 3.5%. So the state's already limited our revenue by
Well,
that 4.5%.
I recall that because if you'll remember, Mr. Herrera was here, and you and Mr. Herrera, I came back and you made a joke, I hope it was, hey, we'll just go up to 8% without the voters, if you'll remember. And I was
that
like,
last
there's no
year.
way. And then the very next year, they changed it to 3.5%.
Right, and I don't think, there were not many years at all that we ever proposed the rollback rate. In those years where it was 8%, I don't think we ever proposed a budget to go up to the rollback rate. We did propose budgets that went up to the M&O effective rate. So,
And so, Mayor and Mr. Hicks, council, we're just asking, do you agree on the identification of these additional one-time costs so that we can use the fund balance to cover these in the FY26 budget? It still leaves a 26.8% fund balance.
right.
Yeah, the cash match for the MVCPA grant.
Another
Litigation.
decrease we'll see in FY27 that I had not mentioned yet is we'll see one of our Chapter 380 agreements drop off. So
What's-
midway through FY27, we'll have completely funded the grant amount, the maximum grant amount for the Walmart 380 agreement, and that one will fall off.
What's this library donation again?
This is a contribution that we make to the City of Schertz Library to participate
And
in their library.
we've been doing that annually at $40,000.
Yes, for many years.
And remember, we did load back in the ACOG on-demand response. That's 8,100. So that's the bus service, shuttle service that serves two residential communities in our city. So, which we could add to that list, the on-demand response system, because that is a year-by-year decision by council. Do you want to continue to fund that?
How many computers do we need to replace?
Mr. Beekman is here tonight, but he is in a different room, and so he might need to come out and talk about that.
I mean,
It is
the new computers,
118,000.
the computers that are coming out in the year 2025 are vastly different than even last year because they all have AI in them now. They all have the NVIDIA chips. So if you don't replace them, then you're going to be stuck with old, outdated
I'm all right with
processors,
old.
things like that.
I'm old.
I think our computers are on a 5-year replacement schedule.
Yes. Mayor and council, I just want to get direction. Are you okay? There he is. Mr. Beekman, the man on the spot.
I said, do we really need to replace our computers?
How many computer replacements are we needing? Are we looking at the whole entire city, as the mayor was saying?
No, it's
Or
not.
are we looking at 50, 20, 30?
I can get an exact number for you. I don't know it off the top of my head, so I can get it and send it to y'all.
What are you doing? Replacing laptops?
Laptops, desktops, MDTs.
Okay.
And
But
on,
we've already removed any replacement of tablets.
Yes,
Yes.
tablet. There were quite a few tablets in there that we went ahead and removed because we are issuing laptops now. So previously, it was everybody had a desktop, and if you needed to do more work, you got a tablet as well. But since we're moving everybody to a laptop, then we're
With
getting
docking
rid of those
stations so they can take it home.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're getting rid of those tablets. So as they come up, we're just swiping them right off. But I can get a solid number on what we're replacing this year, and I can just email that to y'all if y'all would like. Or give me 10, 15 minutes and I can figure it out.
yeah, I think if you can do that in 10 minutes, it'd be great that we just provide that tonight. We can move on to other items in the meantime. Okay.
We'll grab my laptop,
Thanks, Tracy.
figure that out and let y'all know.
Presentation, anything else that you need from us?
Outside of computers, are there any concerns around that second, the rest of the list around the one-time costs?
I do have a question real quick because I brought it up the last time too. Regarding our lease agreements for some of our fleet, and for instance, whenever we were given our public works, some of the trucks compared to mileage and usage were pretty low. Is that, and I think one of the explanations was, Mr. Gomez, if you could just remind me that I had asked, why are we getting rid of these if they still have low mileage and great usage? And it was because the vehicle itself would have more of a value, correct, to resell, correct? So is it because we are on a lease agreement with our public works trucks?
Our white fleet is on the lease program, and as they come up and they reach that leasing period, then we do the replacements at that time. So it is on a ready lease schedule to be replaced. So since we are part of that program, we don't own the vehicles outright, or we're just, when they come up and they hit that, regardless of the mileage, when the lease is up, we replace the vehicles.
And the goal is to replace them every 4 or 5 years, due to that being the best time for resale value, but also before they start to become costly in terms of repairs.
Well, not to pick on fire chief, just this past week, or 2 weeks ago, I mean, the old truck that Roger used to drive, he ended up having to use it because we own it. Because one of the battalion chief's trucks were out of commission, so he let them use his. So I think it's a benefit to hold on to some of these, like she's talking about. Especially, I know that the mileage on that truck is real low. I mean, it's a F-150 Ford, but I mean, it's super low to have to hold on to it, I would hope that he's not out there doing donuts and needing to replace the transmission and all that stuff, but
We
I
can.
think it's important to hold on to some of these items like that, because that was a perfect example of why we need to hold on to some of these that we do own, because if not, the battalion chief would have been having to roll around in one of our 25, or was it 2500s that we got from the what is it? The free money that we got, the $7 million. Yes. Instead of them having to roll around in that, we had a truck for them to a backup truck. So I think it's important for us to hold on to some of them, but, some of them understand if they're on lease that we've got to get rid of them. But that was a prime example of sometimes holding on to.
Would the council like us to come back with our enterprise lease presentation to show the value that it brings versus the ownership. There's pros and cons to both sides. We'd be happy to bring that presentation back to council. It's really not a presentation for FY26, given where we're at in the budget process. But if we talk to you about it in October, November, you can give us direction about directions or options you'd want us to explore for FY27.
I don't need this presentation again.
Okay. You know, Mayor and Council, I can take, without any objection, the identification of these as one-time costs, I would just take as your support for, so that we're using the fund balance to pay for them as one-time costs in FY26. And then that takes us to the last question. We did not adjust this slide, but it's 26.8% one-time cost. And that's consistent with the vote that you took to reduce our fund balance policy to a minimum of 25%. So what we're showing is that we're not going to that 25% because we only have so many one-time costs identified in the FY26 budget, and therefore we're leaving a larger balance than the new fund balance policy would require. That's a good thing.
I'm glad that after last year's discussion, I know there was a lot of discussion last year with that, lowering it to where it could use it. I know that the one-time costs that Ms. Cunningham's talking about, but I'm glad, y'all brought it to us, and whenever I saw that we're at 23.5, it just blew my mind that here we go, we spent more than we were supposed to, and then y'all bring us a presentation, hey, we need to lower it, and now you come back and it's higher than, and I'm fine with it.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Tracy, you got the numbers ready?
I do. We are going to be replacing 36. We'll be replacing 36 devices. About 10 of those are the MDTs, and that's where the higher expense comes in.
10 of those are what?
MDTs or MDCs, it's the computers in the cars for police and fire.
Okay.
So those costs have gone up for those devices. I've been able to find savings with desktops, laptops for just our regular use.
So the other 26 is gonna be,
Is it general staff, Tracy, field
well,
staff?
right, but it's gonna
office
be a computer, a desktop that's gonna go to
A
a
person.
laptop.
Yes, it's laptops. Some of them are going to be staying desktops. For instance, the fire stations, like the lieutenants, that's just a desktop. So, but most everybody else, if there's an opportunity to move them to a laptop, they'll be getting one. So,
Okay.
Thank you, Tracy.
yes, sir.
Anything else on
Mayor and council, just for clarity, not hearing opposition to the fund balance going to 26.8%. The slide says 26.6%. I'll take that as just support for what we've presented tonight. Okay, all right.
yeah, I don't see anybody saying no.
I know for a tax rate that exceeds the NNR, it does require a public hearing and also 60% affirmative vote by city council. So with a vacant spot, I'm not sure if we still count that spot as a voting member in calculating the 60%. So we'll need to ask the city attorney that.
Yes.
You're saying we need all of us to vote?
60% affirmative vote,
Okay,
which has typically been 5 out of 8.
all right. So with,
And we're
let's
currently
see,
at 4.
I can vote if it's a tie, that's it. All right, so somebody want to make a motion? You need a motion from us tonight?
I do not need a
Okay.
motion.
You're just trying to be prepared for next time?
Yes.
Okay.
At the August 12th city council meeting, you'll be asked to set a maximum tax rate, and that will be for publication purposes so that we can continue to have discussions about the tax rate. We'll also present the a bound budget book to city council and set the dates of the public hearing. We'll also bring a fee schedule,
On,
a draft fee schedule.
Well, do we
go
set
ahead.
the public hearings, we can set that tonight, can we not? Or do we have to wait till the council meeting?
We could not set the public hearing tonight because it's not an agenda item.
Oh,
We
that's-
have traditionally done it at the first meeting in August because the public hearing has been the first meeting in
That's fine.
September, traditionally.
Yeah.
Last year was different, but traditionally, yeah.
So that's all we have tonight.
I think so. Do we want to do the next budget meeting?
There's,
What do y'all think?
On August 5th.
thank you.
I mean, is there really anything else?
I don't
we
think,
need to
I don't think we need to
discuss?
keep it. That's what I'm saying. I'm proposing we cancel it.
Yeah.
So is the next budget meeting after we get the bound books? Or is it before?
No, August 5th was on our budget schedule in the event we needed it. And there is nothing else for us to present for this FY '26. So what Ms. Miranda was saying is that for the August 12th meeting, we will release the agenda and the packet. We won't have the actual budget book there. We will, and when I say we, it's primarily Ms. Miranda and her team producing that, and then we're going to deliver that to you digitally in advance of August 12th, but it won't
Okay.
be in the packet because
Is-
we're, go ahead. sorry.
My thought process is, last year, I was able, you sent out the budget by category, and it had the line items, and I was able to ask all those questions prior to the final budget meeting, so that we could actually discuss it at the budget meeting. I would like to still be able to do that, and I just want to make sure that we aren't canceling the budget meeting, because if we are going to have the opportunity to look at those line item type things, I would still like the opportunity to ask questions and let the rest of council know.
Do you want a raw format budget, like an Excel document, to be able
That's-
to filter and?
Sure, that can work, yeah,
We can send
whatever's
that as
easiest.
well.
I don't think it was like specifics, but it had like telecom and technology and salaries. And so it was like the bigger buckets, but it was broken down by each line under each department or each fund. That would be helpful, because then I can ask questions like, why are we spending $5 million on technology in planning? Like, what is that for? So,
Yep, that sounds perfect.
Is that something that you would be able to send to all of council?
Oh, it will go to all of council, absolutely. And remember, August 12th is the city manager's proposed budget being provided to you with no action. We come back at the second meeting in August, which would be August 26th, and you have that 2-week period to ask questions. At August 26th, as a body, then you give direction. Is there anything else to tweak in any one of the funds, not just the general fund? And then it's the September meeting where you take a vote, at least you're scheduled to take a vote on the budget. So yes, there is not just the night of, you have weeks to give us feedback on the budget. Same routine as we've done every year.
Okay.
We're only gonna do one public hearing then?
Yes, as we have done on the past, yes.
Okay, item number 7, taking a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.